You're listening to Binjang 91.5, and it's time for Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. I'm your host, Tony Graham, from Studio 2. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning to you too, Tony.
Yes, well, let's go into our first topic straight off the bat. Now, a lot of people don't have much time to wait around for their phone to charge, and it's nothing more frustrating than having it go flat, and then you have to hang around waiting before you can actually get going again. But a Chinese electronics company, that's Xiaomi, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it says it can now fully charge a phone in 8 minutes at 200 watt. Now, you might like to just explain all that.
Yeah, so the pronunciation, there's a lot of debate around the pronunciation. It's Xiaomi is the way I pronounce it, but I'm not saying that's actually correct, Tony. That's just the way I pronounce it. But Xiaomi, a very successful Chinese electronics company. And one of the things that they've done over the years is they've tried to be very innovative in what they're showing off. And not everything they show off, as with many companies, they don't always bring it to market, but Xiaomi's been pretty good with their fast charging. So this particular model they've shown off, again, you can't buy this yet, but they're just showing what is possible. At 200 watts with a wired charger, that's 8 minutes from dead flat to fully charged, which is pretty impressive. And as you say, it is very frustrating when you do have a battery that's flat, you're halfway through the day, I forgot to charge it last night, damn, I've got to wait around for a while, or leave it plugged in while I use it. Not with this particular concept where you can obviously charge it very quickly. Now, the phone they used, that was a Mi 11 Pro. It's got a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, so it's not a small battery. So to do that in 8 minutes is pretty impressive. They also showed off wireless charging, and obviously people find that very convenient, but wireless charging is often slower or much slower than wired charging. But they showed off wireless charging using what they call their hypercharge system, so it must be good if it's got the word hyper in front of it. And they showed off hypercharging this within 15 minutes. So pretty impressive from Xiaomi. Again, there has been a bit of a battleground around this. A couple of years ago, they announced a 100-watt system that could charge a 4,000 milliamp hour battery in 17 minutes. And then Oppo has been stepping up the process as well in terms of competing. And last year, they demonstrated a 125-watt system. They were promoting that they could charge a battery in 20 minutes. So as far as I'm concerned, Tony, let the battles continue, because it means for you and I that we will get better phones, better features, and let the competitors go, and it'll raise the bar for everyone.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, our next topic is about Australian products. This is an area of great confusion for a lot of people because the rules continuously change. The governments always want to change logos and things like that. And they, at the end of the day, they just want to know whether the products they're buying are Australian or not, or what the content is. And of course, with a supply chain, which can be multiple and varied and long, it's sometimes very hard to work that out. So there's a new app out, isn't there, to try and sort this stuff out?
There is a new app, and I love the name of the new app. It's called Australian, as in Australian. You couldn't get much more ochre than that for an app name. And you're right about the confusion, because you might have a product that's got all Australian content in the production of that product, but it's owned by an overseas company. Or you might have an Australian-based company that's got lots of overseas products in the production of that particular product. So the idea of this app, it gives a score out of 100. And I can't tell you the exact algorithm that it uses, but what it does do is it does actually look at all the products that go into making that particular product. Where do they come from? What company owns those products that goes into that particular product? And then how much of that company is actually Australian owned as well. So the creator of the app, a gentleman by the name of Alex Black, he said that the idea here would be just to get consumers to have more education about where their products are coming from and allow them then to support local businesses. And that's the logic here. You might think you're supporting a local business or an Australian business when you're not, because you might think a company is Australian owned or is using Australian products, but it's not. At the moment, they've got about 250,000 products on the database. So you scan any one of those 250,000 products, it will give you that information. They've got beauty goods, very important for you and I, Tony. They've got sports equipment, electronic devices, toys, car parts, accessories. So essentially a whole range of different products there. And the good part about this is that we as Aussies have actually increased our desire to buy Australian. It used to be 87% at a previous survey. The latest survey says 93% of us want to buy Australian made. The real challenge there is sometimes when I see those surveys about how many people want to buy Australian, when you look at the next part of the survey, would you be willing to pay more for Australian? Often people say no. So they want to buy Australian as long as it's no dearer. So this at least gives people a choice.
Mm. And I'd just like to add a postscript to that. I think there's a lot of people who would also like to know, if it's not Australian, where else it might come from, because there's some countries that they mightn't like to buy it from. Yeah. Anyway.
You're right there. So at this stage, this app doesn't give you that information, but that might be a feature that gets added on.
Yeah, would be a good idea, I think. Now, police in the United Kingdom, they thought they were raiding a drug growing operation, but instead it was more to do with mining Bitcoin. So let's go through that, Matthew. Mining Bitcoin.
Mining Bitcoin illegally. So the police in the UK, just at an industrial unit outside Birmingham, thought they had a classic marijuana growing operation. They saw lots of people going in and out of this particular industrial shed. They had heat drones going over the top, and they saw a lot of heat being generated in this particular industrial shed. They just went, yep, this is a classic case of a cannabis farm. And cannabis farms have got lights to grow, they've got heating, they've got ventilation for all that air and fresh air to come in and help them grow. And so they went along with the drug squad to raid this particular industrial shed, and they raided it, and all they found in there were computers. The ant miners were the actual computers in there. They're machines specifically designed to mine Bitcoins. And so they were a bit confused, and they went, oh, well, whoops, we've made a mistake here. Sorry about that. And they investigated just a little bit further, and they found they still were operating illegally. The mining of Bitcoin itself is not actually illegal. But what they had done is they basically tapped into some local electrical wires nearby, and they were stealing electricity effectively, because one of the things with mining Bitcoin now, it's at the point where it takes so long for a new Bitcoin key to be revealed through the mining process that it actually uses up more electricity than what the Bitcoin might be worth. Steal the electricity, and then you've got a business that works quite well, albeit for the fact that it's illegal. So anyway, the guys running this operation still ended up in some trouble. The UK police still had a raid on their hands. It just wasn't the original raid they thought they were going for.
Well, there you go. You learn something every day.
Exactly.
Now, you've been listening to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickinson on Binjang 91.5. And stick around this afternoon for our next session. In the meantime, it's back to Angela with all the great music and information on our station.
Great, Tony.